It appears as though Oklahoma State has a new dude that will be QB2 for the Tulsa matchup tonight, and evidently it is not the former Golden Hurricane QB.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day of State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda. Much like our players, we're going to sweat every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward moment with Mazda, where you can move and be moved. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we get to roll right into this quarterback. I don't necessarily want to say controversy, but conversation for sure. It was recently put out that Noah Walters, the North Alabama quarterback, is transferring to Oklahoma State. He's already been on campus for a little while, so obviously, getting familiar with the playbook and the ins and outs of the Oklahoma State system was important because before, he was getting ready for this moment in Stillwater over the last few weeks or whatever, he was a UCF student, not a walk-on, not a quarterback, not a player. And there is going to be a little cause for concern because essentially you're getting somebody off the streets to suit up and be a QB2. But at the same point in time, he does have a lot of capabilities that should at least give us a little bit of comfort if something were to happen with Zane Flores. Now, I do think that Noah Walters potentially being categorized by other publications as the likely QB2 for this game is a little confusing because for storyline purposes, it would have been pretty cool to see Banks Bowen, the former Tulsa Golden Hurricane QB, who now that we've seen what's happened to Kirk Francis, if Banks Bowen would have stayed at Tulsa, we would likely be playing against Banks Bowen tonight in this ball game. So the fact that Banks Bowen might not be QB2 is maybe even a little bit concerning. Perhaps there's an injury that we're not necessarily being led on to. Perhaps he's just physically nowhere near ready or he doesn't understand the playbook. But even then, you got to assume that Noah Walters likely would be a little bit further behind when it comes to the playbook, things of that nature. So it is slightly perplexing, but we do comps occasionally here, right? And I'm going to give you the comp for the Oklahoma State Cowboy that seems most reminiscent of what Noah Walters could provide here at Oklahoma State. All right, Mr. Noah Walters walks in the building at 6 foot, 195 pounds. He went 375 of 677 passing, 4,494 yards at 56.2% completion percentage and 6.7 yards per throw. He had 40 touchdowns to 25 interceptions at 2 years North Alabama with a 125.1 quarterback rating. He also had 196 rushes for 604 yards at 3.1 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. My comp for him is Drew Brown. The Hawaii transfer quarterback came in at 5'11", 195 pounds. He went 463 of 747 at Hawaii for 5,273 yards, 62.1% completion percentage, 7.1 yards per completion, 37 TDs to 15 INTs with a 133.6 QBR. He also had 146 rushing attempts for 319 yards at 2.4 yards per carry with 6 touchdowns. So they're almost identical size, 6 foot, 195 to 5'11", 195. They both threw almost 700 passes. Noah Walters at 667, Drew Brown at 747. Comparable yards, almost 4,500 yards for Noah Walters, 5,200 yards for Drew Brown, 56% completion percentage for Walters, 62% completion percentage for Drew Brown, 7.1 yards per completion for Drew, 6.7 for Noah, 40 touchdowns for Noah, 37 touchdowns for Drew, 15 picks for Drew, 25 picks for Noah, 125 QBR to 133 QBR, 196 rushes to 146 rushes. They're very comparable. They're almost the exact same size. They almost have a lot of the same exact statistical components whenever you factor in 2 years at Hawaii compared to 2 years at North Alabama. The biggest differentiation is obviously going to be the fact that Drew Brown did come from Division I football. Noah Walters obviously not only is not coming quite from that level, but he was a just regular average student at UCF before coming on to campus at Oklahoma State. Now, thankfully, He has been here at least for a little bit of time to get used to the system and the Cowboy culture and the playbook and the coaches and how we were going to conduct the strength and conditioning for him specifically. So it's not like he's walking in completely blind, which in my DMs and comments and things of that nature, people seem to have a slight misconception that he literally went from a student at UCF to a flight to Stillwater to getting his pads to getting ready to play in this week. I do think that he's been ingrained at least a little bit in what the process is supposed to look like and where he could factor into that. Secondarily, this also adds a little bit of a layer to the Hauss Hejny situation. Because naturally, if we knew, no matter what, that Hauss Hejny was going to be back in 3, 4, maybe even 5 weeks, we likely, probably would just roll with what we have, unless there's an injury to Banks Bowen. If that is the case, I think it would behoove Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State to come out and say, listen, we had a backup in Banks Bowen, and then behind him we had former Stillwater quarterback Mason Schubert, but one of them's hurt or one of them's not ready or one of them doesn't know the playbook, and this is why we brought in Noah Walters. So the fact that some of this is still up in the air is a little perplexing, but it also, again, adds to that layer of Hauss Hejny. I firmly believe that it's going to be a business decision, right? And that's going to be contingent upon what the team looks like whenever Hauss Hejny is healthy. Again, I thought that the homecoming timeline was maybe a little quick, right? But maybe the week after that would be reasonable to expect off of that style of injury. If he wasn't a running quarterback, yes, he could probably be back sooner. But let's face the facts. If Oklahoma State is 4-1 by the time he's fully healthy and ready to go, it makes a lot of sense for him to go ahead and jump in and play the game. But if Oklahoma State's like 2-3 at that point in time, then it really doesn't make a ton of sense, unfortunately, in this day and age, for Hauss Hejny to come back because of the offensive line issues. Now, again, if the offensive line shows improvement, the tight ends are good at chipping and beneficial in keeping the quarterback more upright, and we're 4-1 or something to that effect, when Hauss does come back, it makes sense that Hauss jumps into the fold, assumes that position as that guy who can be an X factor. Because right now, we're seemingly lacking in that X factor category. Hauss Hejny does provide that. We're not out on the Zane train. I just firmly believe that there has to be something that the coaching staff saw that told them we need to keep Zane Flores and we're okay with getting rid of Rangel and Malwake. So for that to be applicable, there's got to be something that we haven't quite seen yet. He's thrown a couple magical dimes, but the rest of the time he's looked pretty, out of his element, uncomfortable. I don't want to go as far as to say, Gunnar Gundy versus K-State uncomfortable, but maybe it's just going to take some time. Maybe it's going to take some more time for him to find some of those dudes that can help Oklahoma State in that X factor department, because we had some show up and then they magically disappeared. Speaking of disappearing, sometimes it's best to just get in a car and go on a drive, clear your head, disappear for at least an hour or two. Today, we're going to talk about Mazda's moving the game forward moment. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it, there are moments that do more than just put points up on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep moving the game forward. Oklahoma State coming off of a bye week, it does make it a little bit more difficult moving the momentum forward, but we are going to have to look at some dudes in this game to do just that. Whether it's going to be Wendell Gregory, or are we going to have a receiver finally be able to take the top off of the defense? Is this the game where RBU shows back up? Is it going to be Trent Howland? Is it going to be Caleb Hicks? Is Rodney Fields 100% healthy? Is Sesi Vailahe back in the mix? What keeps all of us moving forward is the performances that these Cowboys can put up, and we have an opportunity to do so today. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is the only beginning. And just like there's more with every highlight, there's also more to every single Mazda vehicle. Get squared away today with Mazda, where you can move and be moved. From Mazda to Wayfair, the weather is starting to cool down a little bit. The days are getting a little bit shorter, and this has all of us wanting to make our home feel a little bit cozier. And that's when the cozying time comes into your space. This fall, Wayfair is the place to go for that space. Wayfair has everything you need to set the mood for the season. Whether it's comfy recliners, warm bedding, autumn decor, or even an espresso machine so you can make your favorite latte right from home. Whenever you look at what you love most about the variety for your house, Wayfair is going to give you the options for every style on every budget so you don't have to compromise. The delivery is going to be fast, free, hassle-free, which makes a huge difference when you're trying to refresh your home. It's the perfect time to set your home up for the fall so you can enjoy the cozy nights in with family and friends. Cozify your space with Wayfair's curated collection of easy, affordable fall updates, from comfy recliners to cozy bedding and autumn decor. You'll find it for way less at wayfair.com. That is Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Get with Wayfair today. They have every single style for every single home. We need to Wayfair our way into the performances from some of the dudes that we saw against University of Tennessee Martin. Those individuals unfortunately disappeared against Oregon. Like Wendell Gregory seemed to announce himself on the world stage against UTM, but he was non-existent against Oregon. Jaleel Johnson, maybe statistically he didn't do a ton of stuff in that UTM game, but he was one of the biggest culprits to causing so much chaos in the backfield that other individuals got in on the party. Jacoby Oliphant putting on some beautiful pressure that allowed Cale Smith to get in an interception. We needed some of those dudes, whether it was going to be Wendell Gregory or Terrill Davis or Jaleel Johnson, Cam Smith. Somebody had to kind of take the mantle of, I'm going to be the potential X factor of this ball game. And unfortunately, we had to wait until 70% of the game was already through before we finally got to see Trent Howland drive us all the way down the field, which was the most success we had all day. So the dudes that we were hoping would show back up again against Oregon, they completely disappeared. And statistically speaking, I know Brian McCoy and Brandon Rawls are both doing pretty decent, but if you look at some of the missed assignments or the missed tackles or the missed gaps, there are still a little bit of concerns, because I do think that if Brian McCoy refines a couple things, that he easily is going to put up Nick Martin level numbers. But as it pertains in the Big 12, let's take a peek at some of the guys who still have some capabilities to be the X factor. When you go to receiving yards, this is what hurts most of our heart the most. In the Big 12, the top 25 has 0 Cowboys. Oklahoma State has 0 wide receivers in the top 25 of the conference. I don't think I ever thought that that sentence would leave my mouth. I don't think any of us ever thought that. If there's two things we can depend on, it's the fact that we're always going to have an NFL level wide receiver, at least one, and an NFL level running back, at least one. Now, when it comes to rushing attacks, Caleb Hicks is 12th in the Big 12 in rushing. Now, there is a little bit of a discrepancy when you consider him next to number 11, Carson Hansen. 12th place, Caleb Hicks has 119 yards. 11th place is Carson Hansen of Iowa State with 252 yards. I mean, so even the gap there it's a little bit noticeable. So we definitely need to find a way to make our presence felt. Offensively, when you go to passing, no. Scoring, no. Returns, no. Overall, no. Punting, no. Oklahoma State is just not in offensive categories. Now, defensively, thankfully, we do have some things going for us. We just mentioned tackles. Brian McCoy is currently number 1 in the Big 12 in tackles. Numerically, he's behind Keaton Thomas from Baylor, but we've played one less game, so he is classified as number 1 on Big12Sports.com. And then number 3 in the conference in tackles is Brandon Rawls. Brian McCoy could end up being an All-American level dude. I mean, he's already doing some pretty remarkable things that give us some hope. And I think with his understanding of what to do defensively, spacing, spatial awareness, he should be able to sift through some of the nonsense and put himself on a much even bigger pedestal. But coming in, He has 23 tackles. Brandon Rawls, number 3 in the Big 12 with 19 tackles. After those two dudes, though, unfortunately, the Cowboys don't have any more guys showing up in the top 25. You go to tackles for loss. Wendell Gregory, the guy against UTM who looked like, okay, we've got an All-American level dude on the defensive side of the ball for sure, not named Brian McCoy. That is Wendell Gregory. Even though he completely disappeared against Oregon and other teams in the Big 12 have already played another game or two more than us, Wendell Gregory is still 4th in the Big 12 in tackles for loss. Jaleel Johnson is 14th in the Big 12 in tackles for loss as well. Jaleel Johnson is coming in with 2.5. Meanwhile, Wendell Gregory is coming in with 3.5. The leader of the Big 12 is John Henry Daly from Utah at 6.5. So we've got some work to do, but today's a day that we can get it done. Moving on, sacks. Wendell Gregory, number 2 in the Big 12 with sacks, with 3. John Henry Daly from Utah has 5, but again, they've played another extra game and had more opportunities to extend drives and make some plays. Now, outside of that, we don't have anybody else in the sacks department. You go over to passes defended in the top 25, Oklahoma State has exactly 0 DBs with enough passes defended to be applicable here in the top 25 of the Big 12. Interceptions, we mentioned Jacoby Oliphant making a pretty nice play that has allowed Cale Smith to be 8th in the Big 12 with interceptions. Obviously, he does have that one pick. And then the last category is fumbles. When it comes to fumbles recovered, we have nobody. When it comes to fumbles forced, we also have nobody. Fumbles returned? No. So statistically, in the Big 12, we've got some work to do. And if Oklahoma State doesn't have some of these guys show that they are significantly better than the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, then this conversation about Hauss Hejny coming back kind of becomes a moot point. I don't want to say this is Tulsa's Super Bowl per se, right? Because they do play some quality teams still yet in the American. But to consider this a rivalry, they're going to pull out all the stops to give them more credibility when it comes to some of the comments they've made about being up there with the Oklahoma States and the Kansas States when it comes to recruiting, NIL, so on and so forth. It would send a massive message on their behalf if they were to take down Oklahoma State today. Yes, it would still be an upset because there's supposed to be a differentiation in talent here. It's going to be cool to see Dom Richardson, tote the rock. They're very high on him. The versatility of Braylon Presley is going to be on display. Kind of cool that he gets to stay in the backfield. But, if we don't have some dudes, this is going to be problematic. Right? Last year, we were not a very good football team. You could argue we were a horrendous football team. And yet still, because we had the Ollie Gordon, Nick Martin, Colin Oliver, Brandon Presley effect, we beat the ever-living dog snot out of Tulsa last year, 45-10. So last year was the worst team in Mike Gundy's tenure, and it was the worst team conference-wise since 1994, and we haven't lost to Tulsa since 1998. But something's got to give. So if you're a dude at Oklahoma State, this is a game that you need to show it, because even when we were terrible last season, the dudes that ended up getting NFL opportunities or are still on NFL rosters, they carried the load. So even if we didn't have a great team, even if we had a horrendous season, we still had enough individual dudes to clearly show that there is a difference between Oklahoma State and Tulsa. We got none of that against Oregon. So this is a game that some of those dudes need to rise. The cream needs to rise to the top of the crop, or however that saying goes. You get it. We've got dudes that need to show up and prove it this game. Show that the Oregon game is something that we can just wash away. It can be a bad taste in everybody's mouth. We have to prove some things tonight, or this could morph into some semblance of a rivalry. If you give Tulsa the extra credit that they're looking for, they will uptick NIL. They will get more buy-in from donors. They will get better at recruiting. They will become maybe not a problem, but they could be an obstacle that isn't automatically considered a win like previous. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go support a local company that rocks with Square. It's easy to pay that way, and it's nice to have the neighborhood feel to it. This episode is brought to you by Square, your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel more like home, whether it's a local sports bar packed on game days, a coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives together. There's a local grocery store up the road that we use, and realistically speaking, without Safeway, we'd have to drive a decent ways to get things that we need just to have dinner. And it makes every weekend for football come alive because it's an easy, quick trip right up the road to get everything that I need, from the brouhahas to the platter plates and the stuff I need to barbecue. It's the kind of place where you walk in and everyone already knows your name. The staff kind of feels like family. They've been serving this community here for years. Spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community all around us. The local spots that mean the most to you are where you can show your support for Square today. If I didn't have the access and availability to Safeway literally just being right up the road, I don't even know how I would be able to function on the game days. And again, this is an opportunity for everybody to feel more connected. We need more connection inside our neighborhoods. We need to get more aware with how our neighbors are doing and how they're feeling and the things that they could use to better their day. Make sure that you're here to better your day and better your community with Square today. They're so proud that they have partnered with over 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege, all one word, to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy that you did. Go see your neighborhood spot that utilizes Square so they can squarely see you in the neighborhood. Last but not least, tomorrow is the day that you can keep your streak alive. There should be some Cowboys that begin another streak today, just like you can have your delivery streak fulfilled with DoorDash. It's almost that time. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP, which we're going to find out today. Who's that going to be? The previous week, it's got to be Trent Howland. And just like Trent can carry the Cowboys to potential victory today, DoorDash Streaks is going to do the same for you. They're going to save you more money and time on your order. These players have delivered when it matters most this season. We need to see more of it today. For Locked On Oklahoma State fans, Trent Howland delivered in the only meaningful way against Oregon. The fact that he was able to drive us down the field before we got down towards the goal line and started throwing the ball. The pressure was on. Trent Howland came through, no hesitation, no delay, drove us down the field. And if you've been watching week after week, it's very likely that this performance was not a fluke, because he was also the leading rusher for Indiana just a couple of short years ago. Trent Howland is on a little bit of a streak that he can extend today. And just like Trent Howland doing that, DoorDash delivers for you your Saturdays like Trent can deliver for us. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday on your order, stack it up all season, and then you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. The promo period ends November 18th. Make sure that you get your streak delivery done for tomorrow. And DoorDash is the best for your food delivery. All right, before we wrap this thing up and get on out of here, we have to talk about the injury reports, right? So we talked about the fact that Noah Walters is seemingly going to be QB2 for the game tonight against Tulsa, meaning that maybe there's something wrong with Banks Bowen. Maybe there's something wrong with Mason Schubert. This is not a conference game, so we will not get an injury report. However, for one of the few times in our lives, we can say that we have something deeply in common with Utah. For those of you out there who don't know, Utah is playing a conference game against Taco Recum Tech. So they had to put out their injury report. And it is the most laughable thing you could physically possibly think of. And unfortunately, this is probably a Mike Gundy move too. So Texas Tech, their initial availability report that is mandatory for conference games. Texas Tech has 3 players out for sure. They have 3 players that are doubtful. They have 3 players that are questionable. And then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players that are probable, but potentially could not play. And then you look at the other side. The official availability report put out by Utah is 1, 2, 3, 4 players out. That's it. No doubtfuls, no questionables, no probables, no indefinites. All Utah did was 1, 2, 3, 4, not it. We got these guys out. Good luck with all of the rest of it. Now, I naturally gave Utah fans a little bit of smoke for it because, I mean, this is absolutely preposterous. I understand some levels of gamesmanship, but this is just purposeful laziness and deception. And because Texas Tech is being transparent and out in the forefront as we're supposed to be, it blows my mind that Utah is able to get away with this. So much so that I talked to some Utah Utes about this yesterday, and a couple of them, without me even bringing it up, said, yeah, this is so dumb. And, you know, Kyle Whittingham is so petty and childish in some of these particular areas that we hope, as Utah fans, that there's like a fine put out so nobody else can do this ridiculousness. Well, there has not been a fine put out as of yet by the Big 12 for this insanity. And that is precisely why we know Mike Gundy's probably going to do the same thing. Which means that we're going to have to do a little bit of extra digging and kind of peel back some of the layers of the onion to find out who's doubtful, who's questionable, who's probable. And yeah, the success rate on that's probably going to be, I don't know, iffy. Right? And that's strategic. They don't want teams to know who's doubtful, who's questionable, who's probable, who's this and that and the other. But, I mean, it's dumb. There's nothing to gain for the most part because the preparation is already done, right? That's the crazy part. The preparation's done. So it's not like you can put a report out and magically the team's going to be like, oh, crap, we didn't prepare for X, Y, or Z, right? They've already done the preparation. You only get 2 full, complete days of preparation for an opponent, physically speaking. And then it's a bunch of shell stuff, walk-through stuff. So I don't understand this particular level of gamesmanship by Utah, other than the fact that, according to Utah fans, Kyle Whittingham is this childish and petty, that he's always going to do this. He doesn't believe in injury conversations. He doesn't believe in injury reports. He doesn't think that anybody anywhere has the right to know what's happening with the health of his players, much like Mike Gundy, which is why we're bringing this up. Next week begins our conference slate against Baylor. I would assume that Mike Gundy does something very, very comparable. So it will be interesting to see if the Big 12 does something because, I mean, technically, yeah, you have to release your availability and they put out the 4 players that aren't available. But this is horse piss. That's what this is. So hopefully Mike Gundy has a different take, but it's unlikely. It is very likely this is what we will get. The same thing Utah did, which is a big old flop of a nothing burger that, yeah, I don't know. It's unnecessary gamesmanship. And it would be nice to know the status of your program. So hopefully Mike Gundy doesn't do this so that way we don't have to sift through some of the nonsense. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like it, dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you know what to do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. I'm going to try to go live later, but I'm supposed to go sing the national anthem at a Charlie Kirk vigil. So it'll be contingent upon that. All right. Later, taters.